Thank you very much for joining me for this interview. I would really like to know how everything started for you. How did you start riding, and when did you understand that you wanted this to be your life?
I started riding when I was 4 years old. We used to have this really nice beach house on the outsides of Santiago in Chile. And we would pass by when we went to the beach, this polo club. And we would go and pet the horses and all of that. And then my mom realized one day that the old polo ponies, the ones that were retired, they were using them to teach little kids to ride. And I was 3 at the time, and she went and she asked, like, oh, like, can we do classes and this and that? And the trainer looked at me, and I was like this tiny 3-year-old kid, and she was like, not this year, she's too young, but come back next year. And so we did. We came back the following year, and that's how it started. So I used to just ride like in vacations, like summer, winter vacations. And then I loved it so much that when I turned 8, I shifted and did it also when I was in the city in Santiago. And I think I realized this was something that I wanted to do my whole life. When I started riding in Santiago, I remember watching my first competition. It was on the grass. It was in this club called the Pepper Chase Club. And I was sitting there with a friend. I was probably 8.5 or 9 years old. And I don't even remember what class it was, but I remember watching it and being like, I want to do this and go to the Olympics. And that was that day. And then it kind of turned into, it kept on escalating from doing it, a couple times a week to doing it every day to then getting my first horse, which I remember like every single night for a year, I was asking like at night, like my wish was that I would get a horse. And I finally got an older horse and then did competitions, then got another horse and to jump bigger. And then we went and we did some international competitions and it just kind of like kept on escalating. And then did my first international competition, I think when I was 12. And then did really well in the junior ranks. And yeah, I just kind of escalated. Then eventually when I was 18, I moved to the US, studied, and then now I've been here for a lot of years, like 10, 11. This is my 12th WEF, so a lot of years.
How are you riding with right now?
Right now I'm riding with Amy and Ian Miller. Yeah, from Millerbrook Farm.
And you found each other? How?
Amy, I trained all of my training from, here in the US. I trained with Chris Kapler for 11 years, and he was awesome. He really helped me. It changed my riding. So much focus on the basics, so much focus on a good program for the horse and managing all of that properly. And then it came the time that I needed to do things a little bit more on my own. And I joined a major league team with last year, which was iCandy. And Amy was in the same team. And we were kind of going to do the same circuit together. So I reached out and I asked her if she would train me for a couple shows. And then we would see how it went and then see if this could be a longer term thing. And she agreed, and then, we got along really, really well, and I really liked their program. And this was May of last year, and I've been training with her since.
It worked, of course.
It worked. It worked, and they're really great. I'm learning a lot, and I'm learning a lot from Amy. I'm learning a lot from Ian. I'm learning a lot from their programs, and it's been a really good experience for me.
I would like to elaborate the reason why you want this to be your life. It's about the feeling that you have when you compete, or when you win, when you are jumping with your horse. I think everything we put so much passion in must have a strong reason why. And of course, it's different for each one of us. So just wondering what's yours.
I think there's a lot here, but I think just having that goal since I was 8 years old just like planted that seed. And I'm that type of person that if I set my mind to something and I have a goal, then I have to follow through. And it obviously, like, I loved the horses since the beginning. And I don't do this because, like, my reason is not because I want to go to the Olympics. My reason is because I love the horses, and that's like the icing of the cake, because that means that my connection with my horses and my plan and my scheduling and, you know, everything that we do together with my horse is so good that I can get to that level. So basically the reason is because I love the horses and I want to create that connection, because it's something that you can't explain, you can just feel. And when I'm on a horse and I feel like we're so connected and I just have to think about, you know, what our next move is, and they just know, there's just no feeling like that, you know. And the icing on the cake is to be able to go to these shows and do well, because to me that translates in, you know, all the effort, all the passion, all the connection, all the trying to get to know these horses, connect with them, have, you know, them be happy doing their job. And it just creates this partnership. And when this partnership is so good that everything turns out well and you got some luck on your side, then the culmination is, you know, looking at all the process, and the results are just, you know, they just come. But you can't, I don't think I would be able to do this if it was just about the results, because it's, one, the sport is too frustrating. You know, there's so many more downs than ups. And if you don't focus on like you're saying, your reason why, which is the love for the horses, then, I mean, if your reason why is winning, I think you need to switch to a different sport, you know, because it's here. I mean, the top riders win maybe 10% of the classes they get in. You know, there's just so many factors. So I think, like you're saying, focusing on your why keeps us going, and then getting those results and then being able to go and complete our goals is just the culmination of the effort, the passion, and being able to get that connection with your horse.
How do you build the connection with your horse? I mean, beyond, of course, the riding itself, how do you create a bond with them?
People do this very differently. I think everybody has their own way. Personally, for me, it's really important to get to know them and their personality. So I spend a lot of time with them in the barn, other than just riding. And then obviously, you know, the riding part is special, because you get to kind of see how you're going to train that horse, how you're going to make them like their job, you know, because for me, the point is not to make the horse do something, it's to make the horse want to do that for me. You know, I don't want to force anything. So building that trust comes from, you know, taking care of them knowing that you're taking care of them, being there, you know, knowing what they eat, knowing like where they're sore, like spending time massaging them, you know. And I think also a big part of it is, and I think is our responsibility as riders, is educating ourselves, which is why I read a lot of books, I research a lot, and I think that translates into better care for my horses and a better relationship with them. So basically that's how I build the relationship with my horses, and it takes time. It's not like something that you're going to do one day to another. You know, I'd say on average it takes a year to really start building a connection with your horse.
How many horses do you have right now?
I haven't announced this yet, actually, but I just bought a 7-year-old. You're the first one to know. So I have 5 horses at the moment. The 5-year-old, we nicknamed him, actually my boyfriend, which is not a horse person, nicknamed him Kenji. And so now we have 5. So I have the 3 Grand Prix horses, and then one 8-year-old that I got last year, and then the 7-year-old. And one of my Grand Prix horses is for sale now because I need a little bit of the turnaround. But yeah, we have 5 for now.
And which qualities do you look for when you're looking for a new horse, a young horse to develop?
Personally, I mean, every person has their own thing that they look for in a horse. I like the horses to be lighter, not like heavy European type. So, and I like them to be lighter. I like them to have enough blood so that they take me to the fence. I think it's an important quality that they're careful, that they, you know, care about jumping and they like jumping. And you can tell if a horse likes their job or not. I like them to have like a nice personality, a good personality, and just I think number one quality I would say is, they have a good heart and that they're honest and they want to do the job for you. Because I said, like, that's what you want a horse to do. You don't want them to do it because you're forcing them to do something. Like, you want to create the relationship that they want to do it for you. And I think there are those special horses that really like their job and, have a really good heart and are honest and are careful and are quick, because now we need, quick horses for short time allows. So yeah, I think those are the main qualities for me, at least.
And your favorite horse ever?
Oh my God, my favorite horse ever.
It's a difficult one, I know.
So I think I've had a few horses that have been really important in my career. I think one of those was Monty. He was my first Grand Prix horse. I had him for 4 years, and then he moved on to teach another amateur showjumping as well. But I still own him. Now I retired him, and he's, living a ride, like he's owned by someone else now, but he's just having, a really easy life and enjoying himself. And he was super special because, like I said, he was my first real Grand Prix horse. And he took me to like the highest level, I did my first 5-star Grand Prix on him, and that horse, I could point at anything and he would jump it for me. And I think I really needed that to give me confidence to jump in the higher level. And that horse also, I think, has a special place in my heart because he got me through a really bad eating disorder. Oh. And with him, I made the switch that I really needed to be strong. And that was for me super important, because I think that, I always say, Monty saved me from myself. So it was such a special partnership. So I'd say he is really, really special to me. And now I think Rocky I've had for 6 years, and we have a South American medal. I had never had the opportunity to do that before. So that was really awesome. And she's also super honest. She's fast. She's feisty. She likes her job, and we get along really well. And I really, really know her. So she's super special. And then I think Juice is, my 5-star Grand Prix horse right now. And he's, amazing. But yeah, I think the 2 most important horses right now have been Monty and Rocky. I don't think I can say enough good things about them. I would be talking for days.
You also mentioned that you had eating disorders, and you also focus on fitness and training. Can you tell me more about this?
So basically, I've always been really into fitness my whole life. But I was into fitness because, I wanted to be skinny and that pressure that life and people and your surroundings put on you. But what happened is that, if you want to be a professional rider, that you can't have that. You're not going to have the strength to ride these horses that have so much power underneath you. And that's what happened to me, is that I finally was like, okay, what do I want to, live this life where I'm not eating enough, where I'm just focused on, being thin? Or do I want to live this other life that's really pulling me, which is focusing on my goals, being healthy, being strong? And Monty, because I was doing the bigger classes, and he had so much power that I did not at the beginning have the strength. I felt like I was always getting loose out of the saddle. I actually never fell off of him in the 4 or 5 years that I had him. But I didn't feel comfortable jumping these fences because I kept on getting jumped loose, up in the saddle. And then I was finally okay, something needs to change. And then I started focusing on doing these routines and fitness to be stronger and to be a better rider. And that's, that was a mentality shift that helped me let go of that other mindset. And I would say that eating disorders don't go away. Like there's still a little bit that's like always like in the back of your mind, but like this helps me, keep it at bay, keep it out, and then be able to be healthy. And um, yeah, basically that's how like horses have helped me in my life to decide what I wanted and um, be how I am now. And I think also, rider fitness is something that's just come up in the last, I would say, I don't know, 5 to 7 years. Like people didn't used to cross train, and still I don't think enough people cross train. So that's also another thing. Like I started advocating a lot for rider fitness, and I did a lot of like YouTube videos about it during COVID, and I always like try to share like what I do. And yeah, I think that also helped me be like, okay, we can all be fit together and focus on this and not on the negative aspects. It's insane how much you can do off the horse, and people just think like, every single other athlete cross trains. Like you don't have tennis players just playing tennis. Like they all go to the gym. And this happens in every sport. So like, why isn't it normal in our sport? Like, why isn't it normal that like riders are warming up or stretching before and after? Like, it's, you don't see that. So I think the more we focus on it, the better riders will be. I mean, when I don't do my stretching or my yoga in the morning, I don't feel as connected to my horse because my joints and my muscles are like tight, and I just woke up and I haven't lubricated my system, like my bodies and my joints. So yeah, I mean, it's really important, and I can't stress it enough, and I recommend it to everybody. And I always, whenever I have clients, I'm like, are you cross training? Like, make sure that you put this aside if you want to be a better rider and be stronger, because you're going to need it. You can get away with it when jumping the lower level, but when you start getting serious, it makes a big difference.
And the other equally important thing will be the mindset. We know that this sport requires the right mindset. We need to know how to keep cool nerves and to keep calm and focus before a competition. Literally every second counts. So how do you do that? How do you manage your mindset before the competition, and how do you manage what you need to do under pressure?
Yeah, well, I think for me, this is the part that I find the hardest of the sport. And I think, it's of every sport, especially when you're doing it at a higher and higher level, but at all levels. I think one of the most important things, if not, one of the most important things is having the right mindset and working on mental game. And that is something that I've also advocated for a long time. And it's because that is something that I also struggled with, and I know a lot of people struggle with it, and it's not easy. It's something that you work on all the time, and then you fix certain aspects and something else comes up, and okay, before you weren't nervous, but now you're nervous, or now a certain jump is making you nervous, or different things. So you as a rider have to realize like what helps you, and in order to do that, like for me, and I suggest it to everybody, is to work with a mental coach and to educate yourself as well. Like I also read a lot of books about this, and I watch documentaries, and I'm like, okay, what do other athletes do in other sports? But for me, the biggest thing has been educating myself and working with a mental coach. I've been doing that for, I don't know, 10 years probably, I think. And I worked with the two most important mental coaches that I worked with was one, Eugenio Lizama from Chile, and he really taught me. He wasn't like a particular about, like he wasn't specific to horses, but he did a lot of different athletes. So he taught me like the mental game in general, including like stuff from other athletes, which was really helpful in other sports. And he taught me about visualizing, about making a plan, breathing exercises, focusing on other areas of my life as well. Like, everything is about, we focus a lot on what you need before the ring, but there's like a lot of other basic things that we need before. Like we need to be well emotionally and like with our people first. If like we're having a problem with, a family member or your partner, or you just, aren't happy at the moment with your life, or are stressed, like all of that is going to translate into the show ring. So he taught me about that. And we went through all aspects of my life, like stabilizing it, all of that. And then I've been working with Jim Hickey for the past year. I translated into needed someone, I think, more on the ground and specific to horses. And he's been super helpful. I meet with him at least once a week in person. When we're in Wellington, we see each other all the time because he's here. So he comes in, preps me before the class. He sends me meditations. We make a plan for the year, then we make a plan for each day. And he's been super, super helpful. And I think particularly how I prepare, I've found that there are a few things that are a must for me to feel good going in the ring. One is that I need to have my plan. So the night before, I make a plan, like, what am I going to do? What are the times that I'm going to do that in? If it changes, it doesn't matter. But in my head, if I have a plan, then I don't feel anxious about it. Then making a plan also makes sure that I'm not late and then rushing for things. Because when I feel like I don't have enough time and I'm rushed and like I'm late, that is when I start getting anxious. My heart rate goes quicker, like that translates into my horse. So I don't like that. Yes, it will happen eventually, and I've learned breathing exercises to help with that. But I try at all costs to have plans, set time for myself that I don't feel that way. Because at least for me, I know that affects me negatively. So you just kind of have to realize what affects you and what you need to go in the ring. Then visualizing has been a really, really big part of all this, because when you visualize things, you kind of trick your brain into thinking that you've already lived it. So then when you actually do the action, or whether that's going in the show ring, or before you have a lesson that you really want to do well, any of those things, when you've visualized it enough times, your brain then gets comfortable with it. So when you get to do it, your brain already knows what you're going to do. So it feels more natural, you're more connected, and you can worry about other things, about how your horse feels in that moment, instead of being like, oh, what was the plan? You already have the plan, it, you visualized it 20 times, what you're going to go into. Other than that, like I said, I work a lot with breath work. If I feel like I'm getting nervous, I have different exercises that I do, because whatever we feel, the horse feels, and then that makes them nervous. So you want to make sure that you're settled, that your heart rate is settled, and that you're focused. I think those are the main things: visualizing, breathing, making a plan. Those are the main things that make me focus in the show ring. And then also what I do is I have a ring mantra, and all of these are things that I've done a few videos on, because I want to help people as well. But then for me, when I go in the ring, I think of 3 or 4 things that I need for that horse, and I repeat them a bunch of times in my head. So for example, Lincoln, that I showed today, I needed to stay tall with my shoulders. I needed to have a good quality of canter. I needed to keep him straight, and then I wanted to go clear. So I kept on repeating 4 words, so tall, quality, clear, and straight. So I kept on repeating those things, so then I have a focus on the ring, on what I want to do. So there's just a lot of different things that you can come up with to do your plan, and then with that, you yourself feel comfortable. And this can be different for everyone else, it doesn't, you just have to learn how to make this plan. And I think having the support of a mental coach helps you to make those adjustments, and also to talk about things with somebody that is not in your, doesn't have, I don't know how to explain it, but isn't your friend, doesn't have, it has an outside perspective. So talking about whatever goes wrong in the show ring from the outside perspective is always really good.
You talked about the plan that you have when you enter the ring. You also need to change it if something happens. For example, when you are approaching a big fence, does it ever happen to you that you don't see it, the distance of the fence that you're approaching?
That is a good question, and I think it's also person specific. But I think for me, I usually see the distance, I'd say, I don't know, like enough from far away. But then I always count like 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I jump. But I think what, for example, I've been working on this past year is that I would focus too much on the distance and not enough on the quality of my canter. So what would happen is that the distance would be fine, but the canter wasn't good enough. So then, the jump wasn't good enough. Versus, and this is something that I've been working on and that Amy has really helped me, is, worry about the quality of the canter. And then whatever distance shows up, you can make it work because your canter is good. So kind of like switching the perspective. I was always so worried, like, oh, I need to have the next line is short, so I need to have a quiet distance. And it's like, yes, but it's also important that you shorten the stride, have a good quality of canter, and then get a good jump, and then worry about, the rest. That's a little bit of like anxiety too, about thinking too ahead. But I think I would say, I think one of my strengths is that I have a really good eye for the distance. So, and knock on wood, it has never happened to me that I go to a fence and don't see anything. I think I know it can happen, but I think if you have enough pace through the turn, and if you don't see it, you just wait and focus on the rhythm of your canter, and something is gonna come up. There is something. It's kind of like, I always compare this to when we're walking on the in the sidewalk, and you don't want to touch the lines of the sidewalk. You always see something that you can adjust so that you don't touch the line. So it's the same thing when you're putting distances on horses. So I think the most important thing, I would say, if you are not seeing the distance, as a tip for anybody, is not to pull. You don't want to pull. You want to keep your canter and keep, the rhythm going, and something will come up. And if it's too short or too long, at least you have the quality of canter and the energy to make that work. Versus people, and this happens a lot, and it used to happen, and I'm still a little bit working on it when I get into my old habits, is that you get on the turn and you think that you're going to find the distance by pulling. And it's like, then you get, the problem when you do that is you only get two options. One, a really deep one and slow because you have to pull more, or you see the one that's the leave out, but you can't get to it because your canter is too slow and too short. So the best advice I would say is, when you're coming to a jump, to keep your rhythm, and something will show up, and then you make a decision and trust that it will happen.
Do you have a role model among riders?
I think I look up to a lot of people that have been doing really well in the sport. I think, for me, Steve Gerdat is a role model, because I think he really focuses on the program of his horses and making sure his horses are happy. And he is a rider that I can see feels every single one of his horses when he's riding. Yeah, I would say that's one of my, biggest role models, and has been for a while. I would say Laura Kraut is another one, because, she's a woman and she's doing it at the top level for so many years. And I think it's important for us women to look up to other women as well that are doing it in the sport, because at least in the high level, we're not that many. So, and obviously Amy is a big role model for me. And it's been truly amazing and an honor to be able to show at these shows, and also watch her show at the same time in the same classes that I do. I think it, pushes me to be better, and also teaches me a lot. So I'd say, if I had to pick different qualities from different people,
yeah,
that would be it. And with Amy, it's Ian as well. Ian has a natural talent that he gets on a horse and knows exactly what to do with them. And I'm in awe every time I see him ride a horse, and how he explains things. And yeah, he's truly one of the best.
What was your biggest satisfaction so far?
Like result-wise?
Can be results, but can be also something else. Yeah, one of the things that you think of today and feel like, yeah, that was a very significant moment for me.
I think results-wise, and a little bit of everything was the medal at the South American Games. I got Rocky when she was 8, really, and at the end of her 8th year, and she had only done, a couple 140s, maybe a national 145, and we didn't know, I was like, oh, this is, a nice amateur horse, but I didn't know how far she was gonna go. And then, we went up to the 5-star level and went to the South American Games, got a medal, and all of that was through hard work, through building a partnership, through trusting each other, and it just culminated into that. And we had such a good year that year. We placed in every Grand Prix we showed, and it was just, it was awesome. And it just, that whole year was after having a really hard year and a really hard start of the year, because I had a really bad fall on her where I broke my shoulder, and I had just gone through a breakup, and it was just a lot was coming down on me then, and it was building all up, and then realizing how happy I was and how grateful I was about the sport and my horses. And I think that was for me very special.
I know that you have your own business. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
We founded Lumiere Horses, I think, a while back, maybe 2021, but I officially started doing this full time when I graduated, which was December 2022. I turned professional a few years before that, 1 or 2 years before that, but I started doing this full time as my business then when I graduated. And Lumiere Horses is, we buy and sell a few horses. We haven't done that fully because I'm more focusing on my career, but I always have 1 or 2 that are for sale that I either, build up from when they're younger. And then I also have a few clients. I'm starting that slowly, I would say, because I've been focusing a lot on my career, and last year we were basically moving around all year, and I traveled more than I have traveled in my entire life in that 1 year. But I am looking forward to getting, working with more clients and helping more people get to a higher level. So I will be doing, a few clinics, I think, this year. And I would love to do more teaching. Then I think another part of the business is the whole content creator side. And, I've been working on that as well. But yeah, the main business, Lumiere Horses, is, owns my career horses as well as a few sale horses, and we have some clients. So yeah, basically that's what it is. Right now, I don't have anybody full-time, but I am looking to see if anybody wants, full-time help or semi part-time.
Question really important for me is about ethics in this sport. So we see riders with really different approach to their relation with their horses. Sometimes they are just assets, sometimes they are really loved, and there is a lot going on in between. What do you think about this aspect of the sport? I mean, the things that we see today, and where do you see ethics in the equestrian sports going?
I would say the main problem in regards to ethics in the sport is not that these people are inherently bad, is that they're not educated. And I think that happens a lot, that and how do I explain this? So basically, riders learn by what other people teach them, but they don't necessarily go out and try to read books and do their own research about how the horses learn, how their body functions, why do they get ulcers, all these little things. You basically learn how to ride, and you learn how to treat a horse based on what your trainers or your peers have taught you. And I think that's why we see some people that we don't think are very nice with their horses. And I don't think it's because they're bad. I think it's because they're not educated. So I think a good way to improve that is to educate people about horse care, horse wellness, and I think that's moving towards that. But I think that those people also have to, themselves want to be educated. Um, and I think, all of us, everybody who rides loves the horses or wants what's best for them. But sometimes we just don't make the right decisions because we don't know any better. So at least for me, I made a promise that I was going to learn and know why things happen and why the horses need certain things and how to better teach them so that I'm better for the horses. Basically, I think sometimes people make certain decisions that are not for the best of the horse because they don't know any better. So I think the way to improve our sport is to make sure we all educate ourselves, I don't know, in horse care and in all horse wellness and what the horses need beyond just because my trainer said so, because, I saw someone do this. And it can be as simple of things like how to lead a horse, to make sure that they're not pulling you, because that translates into them pulling when you're riding, and the fight in the riding translates from, the whoever's handling the horse pulling on that lead rope and teaching the horse to pull against it. It's like all these things that nobody thinks about because we're all sometimes so focused on competing and showing that we forget about little things that are important for the horse. So in regards to where this is going, I would hope that there are more people that think like me, that want to educate themselves and want to educate others, and I think there are, so that we can all be better for our horses, because our horses don't need to do these things for us, and we have to make sure that we are good enough for them. And how do we do that? By being the best that we can be for ourselves and for them, and by educating ourselves so that we know how to be better for them. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it started too for me in social media. It was part educating and part entertaining people about the horse world. So and I got a lot of good response for that, which is why I think that people are interested in it. And yeah, and I hope that everybody feels the same way, and that we keep putting the horses before any prize money, any results, any glory, because if it wasn't for the horses, we wouldn't have any of this.
What advice would you give to young riders who wish to follow your footsteps, who wish to make a career out of show jumping and riding?
I think my main advice would be, to remember that this is a sport that has a lot of downs, but the ups are what makes it worth it. And remember why you do this. We do this for the love of the horse and that's why we love the sport, because we love the horses. So be patient with yourself, be resilient, have work on your mental strength, because a lot of it's a sport that comes with a lot of frustration. So what I would like to tell someone that's, coming up the ranks is to, we've all been through it. We've all been through the ups and downs and more downs than we would want. And anybody from, Henrik to a little kid, we've all been through all of that, all the frustrations. And it's just about, how you get up and you keep being resilient and you keep working on yourself. And yeah, I think it's a really nice sport when you focus on why you're doing it. Like you said at the beginning, and then just being patient with yourself and trusting yourself.
Thank you for agreeing to do this interview. And it was such a big pleasure speaking with you.
No, thank you. Your questions were really great. And I hope that we, bring up good discussions and people like to listen to this.
Absolutely.